unless you've experienced, people can't understand what it's like to go to bed every night praying that you will wake up not hurting.
Trauma is really only periods of time in your life where you feel completely out of control.
After spending $150,000 out of pocket money, I came across a $20 book called Healing Back Pain. Tension myositis syndrome specifically is when the body loves you so much that it will protect you from feeling the emotional pain of suppressed rage and anger, and instead it will give you physical pains. Gaining yourself, having yourself back, being at full capacity again, being able to align yourself with your mission and your work and your purpose and your joy is worth anything that you're scared you might lose.
Welcome to the Trailblazers, the space where high-achieving women finally exhale and feel deeply understood.
We are Brittany Anderson and Disha Solanki, two leaders who have built, scaled, exited, and supported multi-8 and 9-figure companies
while carrying far more than most people ever see.
Here we go where most conversations stop.
The burnout, the pressure, the ambition, the identity shifts, the invisible load, and the moments you almost quit.
This is where the real story begins.
Trailblazers.
Many of our conversations are about what someone has built. This is about what someone chose. Christine lived with chronic pain for 19 years. 2 years ago, she chose to heal it. She was running a business, she was serving clients, and leading a team. She's here today because her life is, in her words, only getting better, and she wants other women to know that's possible, even now, and maybe especially now. Christine Kloser is the founder of Seshat Press and an intuitive facilitator for female leaders. 35 years of coaching female founders, authors, and creatives.
Christine, welcome to the show. We are so grateful to have you here today.
Oh, thank you, because I'm incredibly grateful to be here with you both and everyone listening.
Yeah, so let's just kick things off. And I think, Christine, something that makes you uniquely you is you have such a beautiful story and a journey. And when Disha and I first met you, we kind of sat back and went, wow, like she has been through a lot, but she's also created and cultivated so much. So can you talk a little bit about kind of maybe where you are today, but what got you to that point?
Oh, good question. We could probably spend the entire episode just talking about that. But basically, where I am today is a place in my life and in my work and in my business, in myself and in my health and in my family and in every relationship I have. I'm at a place of feeling the strength of who I am, the surrender of who I am, the peace of who I am, the power of who I am, and the freedom to be able to show up as myself in all of those situations. And to very quickly notice when I'm not, when something's off, and kind of take steps immediately to help it fix and repair and get realigned. And that is not a place where I have spoken about living in that place in the past, but you know how we go through these layers and we like, oh yeah, I'm being my authentic self. And then you go through something, you're like, ooh, okay, this authentic self, this truth is hitting a deeper chord. It's hitting a more resonant note. And that's the place that I am in my life. So, you know, recovering people pleaser, approval seeker, perfectionist, and the journey that, that brought me on. It feels really good to be where I'm at right now, doing work I love with people I love and having great conversations with people like you.
So one of the questions that comes about, and I'm sure as any of our listeners hearing this, they're like, okay, how do I get there? How do I get to that point where I don't feel like I have to show up? You know, Disha and I have talked about this at length about feeling like you have to perform and be on and all these things, and how much better it feels to be able to just show up exactly as you are and lean into your own strengths and your own authenticity. So, Christine, can you talk a little bit about how did you get to that point?
Oof. Courage, hard work, difficult decisions, paying attention to the moments of clarity that I had that scared the living daylights out of me. And instead of retracting back into a shell and going, I can't do that. What will people think? How am I going to survive if I do that? And instead doing that very thing. Like, I'll give you one example that would be helpful. In May of 2005, suffered a non-injury on the day that I was leaving Los Angeles to move east with my 3-month-old baby and husband in the car. I moved my arm a certain way. We were on our almost at our first stop. We were going to be stopping in Phoenix. The first, day of our drive east, we were going to stay at my husband's aunt's place, and we were approaching Phoenix. And my arm was up on my husband's seat as he was driving. Our baby, our infant, is in the back seat, and I just took my arm down, and something happened, but nothing physical. But the pain that I experienced for the following 19 years was debilitating. Not that I didn't try incredibly hard. I think I had a list of 74 different modalities of healing, everything from, cortisone shots to shamanic healing to drinking ayahuasca in the jungles of Costa Rica, like everything in between, physical therapy, craniosacral therapy, you name it. I tried everything because I was desperate to be out of pain. Has anyone, first of all, if any of you have experienced a pain journey, like my heart is with you, because unless you've experienced it, people can't understand what it's like to go to bed every night praying that you will wake up not hurting, and then you wake up hurting again, and you end up like only having maybe 20% of your capacity available to do your purpose, to do what you're here to do and live how you want to live. And I woke up every day for almost 19 years with 80% of my take going straight to chronic pain. But I had a business to run. I was a breadwinner. I had a daughter. I had a family. I had clients. I had team. I couldn't stop. I had to keep going until one morning when I had to make one of these difficult decisions, when I had a moment of clarity. This was about 2 years ago. I had just come back from a month-long writing residency I'd been accepted for. I spent a month in France writing a book, not yet published, but the first draft is done. It was done in less than a month while I was there. But after I came back from that trip, I had one particularly difficult morning I woke up in pain and I was just crying in bed, which is a common occurrence for me for those years. And my husband just looked at me. He's like, "What is your body saying to you? What does your body need?" And every cell of my being in that moment, all I heard was the word stop. And then my rational mind is like, I can't stop. I have clients. I have a team. I have to generate revenue. I support this family. I have a daughter in college, like all the things that we go through. And in that moment, I listened to my body and I stopped and I took the risk of not knowing what was going to happen. But I did the courageous work of actually doing what it took to heal myself. No modality, no one outside of myself. And last year in 2025 was the first year since 2005 that I lived completely pain-free. And it's because I had the courage to do the work of healing myself and what was underneath that pain. So that was my journey of how I got to where I am. I wouldn't wish it on anyone. The work of healing, the work of clearing, the work of clarity, the work of looking at the things that you didn't even know were under the rocks that were, tucked away, driving everything. Again, wouldn't wish the journey of chronic pain on anyone, but for me, it was the thing that really freed me as I healed it.
Christine, thank you so much for sharing that, number one. Secondly, for any of our listeners who haven't lived inside chronic pain, and 19 years is a really long time for you to have lived with that. What toll did that take on you as a human? And what did it feel like to run a business through it? Because you didn't quit, even though you were suffering like the way that you say you were as well. It's a big ask of yourself more than anything else.
Well, there's not an area of my life it didn't impact. I remember walking through the mall with my daughter when she was young, and she would naturally be on my left side and reach up to hold my hand, which her right hand would be my left hand. And I would flinch because it was painful. Any extra movement on that side of my body, all of it was here. I couldn't do this for 19 years. So, I would always have to get to the other side of her and, drop her hand on the side that she reached for and move it to the other side. Over and over again, that's difficult, I remember being on a vacation in Costa Rica with my family, and my husband had to go out and buy me a cane because I couldn't walk. I couldn't go out for the surf lessons. I couldn't do the things. So it impacts family, certainly. But part of what happened for me in running my business is when I woke up in pain, like I was constantly living in this state of desperation. And
Mhm.
I think in many situations, I didn't realize how ill functioning I was. Like I thought I had capacity. And now that I actually have full capacity back, I look back, I'm like, oh my gosh, I was running on fumes. And when you're in that state of feeling desperate, whether it's because you're in chronic pain, whether it's because something you've tried isn't working, and like, but anytime you're in that state, you're never going to make good decisions. And for me in my business, I was so desperate for help. Like, I know what to do. I just can't do it. Will anybody just help me? Just do this for me. And I made the decision of not really vetting people that I hired to help me, whether it was a coach, a consultant, a marketing person, a strategist, a branding person, like what have you. Like the first person who came to me who said, "Oh, yeah, Christine, I can help." That's all I needed to hear. I didn't care what the price tag was. It didn't matter to me. Like, if you say you're going to help me fix this problem and help things, move forward while I try to function in this state, I'm going to open my wallet and give you whatever it takes. And no decision from that place ever really turns out well. And it was just disappointment after deliverables not being met after, a high level coaching where a coach would just cancel calls and not reschedule. And that was all part of the cycle that I was creating based on the things I didn't know that were going on inside of myself that all leaned its way to that. The people pleaser, the approval seeker, the I can't speak up for myself. Like, I don't want anyone to get mad at me. Got to, not rock the boat, keep everyone, settled and make sure that everyone else is okay versus taking care of myself. So, that will impact every area of your life. And it did mine for sure.
Christine, the thing that I, excuse me, keep thinking about as you're talking through this. So we had a guest on the Trailblazers podcast here. Her name was Janelle Bruland, and she talked about trauma. And she talked about how there's a lot of people out there that are like, oh, I've never had trauma. And you immediately associate something like major or horrific or things that, maybe you haven't experienced in your life, but you've seen happen to others or whatever. And she broke it down to the simplest form. And she's like, trauma is really only periods of time in your life where you feel completely out of control. And it's those moments that leave those imprints. Like I call them moments of impact. So I have to ask this question just because curiosity is absolutely killing me over here. We go back 19 years of pain. You're ready to relocate. You're moving across the country. You have a baby. You have your husband. You do this reach back. What was going on in your life right then? And was there something that made you feel completely out of control that you can now reflect back and associate with that start of the pain?
Well, if we're really going to associate where the pain started, it goes back a few more decades than that. You know, as every living human being does, everyone is always only doing the best they can with what they have, right? My parents did the best they could with what they had, but I grew up in a less than favorable environment. It wasn't like the trauma of, being beaten every day or anything like that, but it was my own version of just not having guidance and feeling neglected and being a part of a family of 5, but feeling like an isolated island, like nobody was there for me. I didn't have parents who were there for me like that. I didn't have a teacher. I didn't have a coach. I didn't have a counselor. I didn't have, a friend's mom who kind of took me under her wing. Like I was just flapping in the wind, this island. So I moved to Los Angeles and I founded an organization there called the Network for Empowering Women Entrepreneurs way back in 2000. Our tagline was ignite your business and fuel your soul. And this was a place where women could come together, not to flash a smile on their face and press flesh and, put on a flashy business card. And when someone asks, how's business? The only acceptable response was, it's great. This was where women business owners came to really enter into a sacred sisterhood of being able to be themselves, to be seen, to have business not be okay. I never marketed that organization, and it grew to 500 members. And it was the first place in community that I really felt like I belonged. It was my home, and it was the home for these 500 other women. It was where we all felt like someone finally gets me, like I finally belong. So when I left LA, because my maternal instinct was so like, go back east. That's where my family is. That's where my daughter's cousins are. That's where, like I have family here. My husband, who is also from California originally, like he has family here. And every part of my maternal instinct was like, you gotta go back east. So I did. I was raised in Connecticut. My parents still live in the house we moved to when I was 4 years old. So this was the day that it didn't consciously register, but I was leaving the only place that I really felt safety and belonging amongst women and in community. And I plopped myself in the middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania, which was drivable to Connecticut and, Massachusetts and Maryland, sort of in between where all the family was. And I dropped myself into this place of isolation. I've since built incredible community here, which usually happens in my living room with all my women's circles and retreats and the things I do here, medicine ceremonies, what have you. But I didn't realize that I was playing out this pattern, like the connection, the depth of relationship, the safety. My system didn't really know that. And I think unconsciously, in some way, part of my leaving was it was uncomfortable subconsciously to be surrounded by that much love and that much connection and that much sisterhood and that much community. So, like, yeah, all of that, kind of, I think all that was underneath kind of triggered when I just moved my arm, something happened. And while I tried and tried, I have to trust divine right timing. When I finally, read a book, I self diagnosed with what was going on with my body. And then I did the work to heal it. And now I can see the patterns, the behaviors, the roots that they came from. And it's freed me. It's pretty freaking amazing.
Wow. Go ahead, Disha. I could tell. Like, she wants to ask something.
I want to ask, when you talk about healing yourself, because this is something I do believe a lot of women need to hear. Was there, what was the journey to you healing yourself? And you said, you were fully relieved of chronic pain a couple of years ago now. How long did that journey take you? And where did you practically start as well as spiritually? Because I assume it might have been a bit of a spiritual calling as well. There maybe have been a time where you thought, I'm going to accept this is my reality, or a version of you that thought, this is my reality right now. So something changed after 19 years for you to go, no, this isn't my version of reality. And this is what healing myself looks like.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I came across a book after spending $150,000 of out of pocket money because the things I tried mostly were not covered by insurance to figure out what is this. I came across a $20 book called Healing Back Pain. It's written by a gentleman named Dr. John Sarno, who has since passed, but he developed a diagnosis because he was a medical doctor and he came up with this diagnosis called tension myositis syndrome. And I read that book. Every single word in that book was speaking directly to me. And as a publisher who's published nearly 700 authors and helped people share their truths, and I always tell them, like, you never know. You might be the hundredth or thousandth or millionth book on a topic, but there's going to be someone who finally gets their hands on your book and it changes their life. And I've had many experiences like that with books, as I'm sure you have as well, right? We all read books that transform us. But this book, when I read it, it was a game changer for me because he came up with a diagnosis called tension myositis syndrome. And the diagnosis, everything about it just screamed my experience. So I said, okay, I'm going to believe him. I'm going to trust this. I'm going to do what he suggests to do. I worked with a coach who helps people with attention myositis syndrome. I did her program, had some private sessions with her because it's a complete mind body. And, so many things are mind body related, if not everything on some level, if you dig down deep enough. But tension myositis syndrome specifically is when the body loves you so much that it will protect you from feeling the emotional pain of suppressed rage and anger. And instead, it will give you physical pain so that you don't have to go through these difficult emotions of, rage and anger that had been suppressed and repressed, probably for lifetimes, but certainly this lifetime. So I was like, oh my gosh, like that's going to work. And that is what worked. I had to start getting really honest with myself. I had to look in the mirror. I had to peel back every layer and look at everything that wasn't working and all the behaviors I had developed to survive. All of the patterns that we create that we don't know when we're creating. Like we think we're functioning really. Like I was pretty high functioning for someone who was living in pain, but not high functioning like I am now with actual capacity. I was high functioning out of the perfectionism, the people pleasing, the approval seeking, and all of those things. And I performed pretty well. I mean, you don't run a publishing company for 22 years and train tens of thousands of people and have the success we do and clients coming back for subsequent books and referrals that come in. Like that doesn't happen unless you're performing at a pretty high level. But I didn't realize that a lot of that performance was coming from the things underneath that I was just trying to compensate for in some ways. It's kind of weird. This is really the first time I've talked about this stuff like this. So anyway, some of you who listen might be surprised because I hid the pain a lot from my public life. I would just dose up on Advil. I'd get on stage at my events, and on a dance break, you'd only see my right arm up in the air because my left arm, couldn't go. Anyway, so it was doing the work of facing what was all the stuff that I had stuffed down that I had to face and deal with and address and unpack. And it was rigorous, but it was amazing, as difficult as it was beautiful. Because literally all of a sudden, one day, as I moved through the self-reflection, yes, I was working with a therapist and, kind of unpacking it all. Like all of a sudden, like, oh, like I'm free up here in my body. I can circle both of my shoulders back. I can zip up my pants without pain. I can reach to the top shelf in the kitchen. I can have my husband hug me, or I can laugh. Like he's funny. So I would laugh, but I would be so mad at him for making me laugh because laughing hurt, sneezing hurt, coughing hurt, washing my hair in the shower hurt. I had to do it sideways because I couldn't get this arm up. And then all of a sudden, I didn't even hardly notice. I'm like, oh, I washed my hair with both of my hands. Like, I'm a dancer. I grew up dancing. I was a competitive dancer as a young adult. I was a jazz dancer. I toured Europe for 3 weeks dancing in high school. Like, I'm a dancer. I couldn't dance. And then all this, like, I would go out dancing, doped up on Advil, and I would just cringe every time, because I'm a social dancer. So people are spinning me around the floor. I would just cringe, but I still had to try to dance. And now I can go out dancing. I can get spun all the way around the dance floor with a smile on my face and like free movement. And yeah, so anyway, that's what it looked like for me.
Well, first of all, you can't even know or understand how honored we feel to be that conversation, like to have and hold this conversation and for you to be sharing it with our audience for the first time. So I think number one, before we even get any further, want to say thank you because I think that every time a woman in particular, right? Like, and this is across genders, it doesn't matter, but anytime a woman shows up and she is willing to be fully vulnerable and transparent and real, like to your point about the group you were involved with, that's a huge founding component of the Trailblazers. Like if somebody comes in and they're wearing that mask or they're feeling like they're posturing or they're constantly like, no, everything's great, everything's good. We're like, okay, but what's going on really? Like, let's peel this back a little bit. So we just appreciate that level of vulnerability. And it brings me to my next question too, because you set yourself up to be able to step away from your business to take care of yourself while trusting that the wheels weren't going to fall off and things would keep moving forward. That requires putting trust in others. That requires trusting your clients too, right? To trust your own journey and your own path. So what are some of the things that you did to ensure that everything was going to be okay, everything was still going to flow, but it gave you that space to step away?
Oh, well, I mean, I don't know if you want to call it divine synchronicity or just a blessing or grace in action, but I am blessed with a solid, reliable, amazing team of mostly women, some men. We have some male editors and on our design team and all that for the publishing company. I have an incredible core team of women who treat my business as if it were their own. They treat, the clients as it was their business and their clients. I don't know how I was as blessed as I was, but someone was looking out for me when they, you know, knew that down the road I'd have to step back and just kind of hand things over and be only accessible minimally for, troubleshooting, brainstorming, things like that. So the team was already really highly functioning in their roles. Like, I love being a publisher. I love being the face and the founder of my company. I love speaking to people about the power of freeing their message onto the page, because that is a transformational journey. That is a healing journey. That is a journey of liberation. That is, telling a story and being someone who is told to be seen and not heard. You know, the gift of being able to liberate people's story, like, it stems from my own ability to really not speak up my entire life. I had strep throat year after year after year for everything that wasn't said because it wasn't okay to be said. So my role is not in the nitty-gritty of the publishing, like the editing and the design and the Amazon optimization and all the things it takes to publish. So my team was already well trained, operating like a pretty well-oiled machine on all of the mechanics of publishing. So while I was on that break, they were probably constantly working on anywhere from 12 to 15 books at a time in different phases. I had done a big push prior to that, so we brought in a bunch of new clients. So they were busy just spending that time to work on these books that were already in our pipeline. And they knew how to do that really well. And they knew that I was always going to be there for them to answer questions, to help. I mean, they tried to give me my space, but I was like, I'm still here for you though. Like, I'm taking care of myself, but I'm still here for you. And they just kept doing what they do. But the challenge was, of course, that was, a year and a half or so of me not being out there rainmaking, bringing in new clients. So we kept everything going. But then it was like, okay, once I was well, then I needed to return into that role. But the production side of things, thankfully, I mean, they masterfully handle that and have handled it, for hundreds of authors over the years. So it wasn't anything new for them. Mostly it was my change of perspective, letting go, letting them do what they needed to do, not, being codependent, like, oh, they need me to be able to do they don't need me to do their jobs. They need me to support them. They need me to hold them. They need me to help them. They need me to guide them if there's something they're stuck with. But it was a lot of me just letting go and getting out of their way. And, they were incredible. Incredible. I still showed up. Like, I still had a monthly meeting that I did for our publishing clients. I never missed one of those. Like, once a month for 90 minutes, I would always show up for those calls so that our clients had that contact with me. I did share a little bit about what I was going through. And yeah, I was just blessed with a team, some of whom have been with me well over a decade. So they know the drill, it wasn't their first time around the block. So
Yeah. So,
yeah, lucky.
I can't help but notice this. So you were talking earlier about how you had this like life of isolation, let's call it. And then you found your community, moved across the US, you found your community, and then you moved back and you had isolation again, and then you found your community again. And then you're talking about your team, and it just seems like you've really managed to surround yourself in your business with people who love you. And I think that, that's something that has been such a conversation in leadership spaces that I sit in too. It's like, there is this fine line. I actually got asked the question recently. It was after I did a presentation, and it was on our Dishes and my concept, align PS, aligning teams, making sure that their people are both taken care of, but operating and executing at max capacity to move towards the grander vision. And one of the questions was, do you believe in being friends with your team? And I was like, this is such an interesting question because I think that you can be friends with boundaries. And to me, it's like when you develop those deep relationships with the people that support you and you truly let them in and you let them see who you are, but you also reciprocate and you show up for them, in the way that they need to be shown up for, how can you help but create deep connection and friendship and all of those things in it? So I guess just because this is such a recency thing and we're hearing so much of this, and I'm just listening to this theme with you of, okay, well, these people are acting like it's their company because they love you and your vision and what you're doing. So do you just have comment to that at all?
Well, a couple things come to mind. They certainly love my vision, right? Because I don't approach anything about writing or publishing books in your typical approach. My approach to writing and publishing book is that it is a tool for transformation. And we're not just going to, print something out for you like a publishing house that isn't holding your hand and in the journey every step of the way and ensuring that you are sort of squeezing the nectar of the transformation that this process allows and the change that that impacts in your life. And my team loves that vision. I'm sure they love me as well. But perhaps more importantly, like they love our clients. They love the work they get to do. They love getting that front row seat to witnessing someone's dream coming true. That's so they love that. And they love, yeah, that I'm the person that has this vision to take this different approach. I mean, I started talking about transformational authorship back in 2011 because I had been in the transformation space, leading retreats and coaching and things like that in the world of transformation for years before I ever started, publishing books. So when I finally brought those two worlds together of transformation and authorship is the path of transformation and really went vocal about my view and my position on that, like they love that. And they love the people we get to work with. And who doesn't like helping people's dreams come true like every day? Like, it's pretty amazing, I will say. But as far as the friendship thing, it's like we are definitely friendly. And we kind of, know, especially my publishing director, right? We know what's going on in each other's lives. She knows what's going on with my family. I know what's going on with her family. We know what's happening, but we are not friends like when I invite friends over to my living room or I'm getting ready, I'm doing a big 60th birthday trip with a bunch of girlfriends in January. And my team doesn't get invited to my friend things. Like my group now, a lot of my friends are actually clients that we've published. I just had a, goddess circle in my living room not too long ago. And, 3 or 4 of the women in that circle had first come to me to publish their books. So oftentimes I will have clients become close soul sisters and friends and really, comrades and supports on the journey. But the team, it's more friendly than friend for me. Yeah, and it seems to work for everyone. They have their lives, they have their friends. We live in different states. It's just kind of it works, but we're there for each other. If there's something going on, we're there for each other. You need a week off, great. Take the week off. I got things covered. Or, oh, Christine, you're away helping family. Like, fine, like we've got it. We don't need our meeting with this week. I'll text you if there's an emergency, something I have to talk with you about. So it's just this flow that works. But my friendships are kind of a different ballgame
Mm.
in a beautiful way. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I'll just call it analogy, right? I love that breakdown. And I think it's so true too, right? Where you get, I'm trying to remember where this, you know what? It was our conversation. We had another podcast guest, Deanna LaRue, and we were talking about friendships and journeys and, just the different phases of life and who supports you in what aspect and where things happen. And, she had a great comment too. And I think this is just so brilliant for high driven women because we do find ourselves in different stages. So I think about how you kind of delineated between friendship and friendly. And I think we can probably apply this to different aspects of our life and periods of growth where maybe the friendship group you had at one point maybe doesn't serve in the same way that it used to. And you find yourself evolving and growing and changing, especially if, maybe some of the people that you surround yourself with don't or aren't on that same journey of growth and evolvement. But she made this great statement, and I'm probably going to butcher it, but it was something along the lines of like all different kind of valleys or journeys in life. It's not that anything is bad or doesn't serve or isn't, how it should be. They all serve their purpose. So that is within the people that you surround yourself within your business. I would maybe disagree a little bit. There is a level of friendship there, but I think it's all by definition and it's by boundary. And then I think about, the women that helped, make you feel like you had a family when you moved to California and you all came together and you had this sisterhood. And then there's the ones that you sit in your living room and you drink wine with and, spill your secrets and travel together or whatever. So I just think the whole point here is that creating community for highly driven, highly achieving women, whatever that definition means, whether it's within your business, within your personal life, within your friend groups, whatever that looks like, I think is so stinking important because this can be a really lonely road. Especially, Christine, I think about the lonely road of building a business, and you've helped so many authors create such great success. You've helped people bring visions, and you said it yourself, like literally bring their dreams to life. And you're pouring yourself into them constantly while in pain. I mean, the journey alone, the build is so much and so heavy. So I guess my whole point and kind of the full circle thing here is now that you are pain-free and you're maybe experiencing life through a different lens, I would imagine from what you've said, what are the things that you're doing to protect yourself now, to make sure we don't go back to that place of pain, to make sure that I'm growing and I have the right people around me? So what does that look like for you going forward?
Oh my gosh. Well, what it looks like is staying disciplined in the work, in the personal reflection, in the journaling, in the reading, in the working with my therapist, and to going to meetings and to all the things that keep me on track, especially at the times when I feel like, oh, like I'm actually doing pretty well. Like maybe I don't need to, go sit with my awesome therapist this week, But actually, that's when I find that no, like that's when I honor the commitment, even when it's feeling good, is I'm still going to stay in the process because, this journey of growth, this journey of recovery, this journey of healing, this journey of becoming and being our full, liberated, sovereign selves in the world, like, I don't think that journey ends. It's not like we ever arrive. They're like, okay, this is it. I'm just going to be in this place for the rest of my life. Life happens, stuff happens, surprises happen, things happen. And I just stay as disciplined in my self-care on every level as I did when I was still in pain every day. I mean, I have almost a 3-hour routine every morning that I do. Probably 350 days of the year, I'm doing that routine every morning because by the time it's done, it's like I'm grounded, I'm centered, I've had time to kind of journal through what I need to journal through. I've read something inspirational, talking with friends and just staying engaged with friends and support and people on similar journeys has been a big part of it as well. So it's just not letting the gas up on the work, the inner work. It's just because I'm out of the weeds, if that makes sense.
You said before, Christine, that your husband's a funny guy, and actually, it sounds like you really enjoyed life to the maximum, probably before chronic pain set in. What did your loved ones see in you from before, and then the journey, and then the after, like that change in you as a person that you couldn't see necessarily in yourself? But now it sounds like there's a non-negotiable in your life. Your 3-hour routine is not negotiable. It's there pretty much.
Yeah.
And it must be there for a good reason, right?
Yeah, because I mean, it works. That time to just focus on and take care of myself, no matter what, no matter how long my to-do list is. It's like, no, I'm going to go sit and I'm going to go meditate. I'm going to take this time. This morning, I was on my vibration plate. I was outside planting my geraniums because, like, that's what I wanted to do this morning to fuel my soul before I started my day. But, it's interesting because I lived so far away from my family, right? They're, say, 5.5-hour drive to Connecticut. It's not like I was seeing them consistently. And they didn't understand because when someone's in chronic pain, it's not like you have a cast on or an eye patch if you had eye surgery. Like I looked the same. And while I spoke of it, like I don't know that it ever really communicates. So I don't know that my family ever really understood. My daughter didn't ever have any experience with me pain free until she was 20 years old. Her whole life I was in pain.
Wow.
So, and my husband, he kind of didn't know what to do with it in some capacity. But I will say the difference between me then and me now, back then, I was much shorter in my temperament. I was a little more controlling, a little more demanding, a little less able to just go with the flow and be present to what was happening. Like I was tight. I was locked in my body for so long. It kind of tightened up my whole life, like this spaciousness to just be with what's happening and not have it filter through how whatever's happening out there impacts me. Because when you live with that kind of pain, like it's really hard to not filter things through what is the impact? What is the weight? What is the cost going to be on me for this thing that's going on right now? Because I was already at such limited capacity. But now, especially my husband and daughter, who is now experiencing me differently, I think they're experiencing me being lighter, more present, more agreeable, less controlling, more trusting, more happier, certainly. And like there's just a life force in me that's always been there, but was dimmed by the restrictions that I had. Like I'd have to watch my husband garden instead of getting my hands in the dirt like I did this morning with my geraniums, right? Like, so there was just a lot of joy that was missing. We go to Hershey Park and like I'd ride the roller coasters because I wanted my daughter to have the memory of riding roller coasters with me. But like I was grimacing in pain the entire time, but now it's like we haven't been on a roller coaster lately, but if we did, it's like we just have so much more enthusiasm and excitement and freedom and joy and laughter on that roller coaster versus holding on and pressing my head against the back of the coaster, hoping that my neck didn't move, which is impossible on a roller coaster. So yeah, I think, and also in the journey, like who I've become is someone who is more able to speak up for myself and speak my truth and set boundaries. And while that has, I think, in some instances maybe been a little bit uncomfortable, it's also like it allows me to more fully be myself in all those relationships because now I'm not bending myself over backwards and turning myself into a pretzel to make sure that everyone else is taken care of but me. I'm like, nope, you can handle that. I'm going to take care of me. I'm here. If something goes south, like I've got you. You're not alone in this, but you get to figure that out now. Whereas old me would have been like, I had to figure everything else out because like any control I had, in some weird sense, I felt like it was going to help me feel more in control when I feel completely out of control. Living in a body that hurt when my first business, I was a personal trainer, right? I was a yoga instructor. I owned a yoga studio. I'm a mover and now I can't really not free in my body. I had to control something. So I tried controlling other people, namely my
And
husband and my daughter.
And
And
that's super frustrating for you too, right? Because pain makes you short-tempered as well while you're there. And then living with it for 19 years, well, that's a lifetime of going through processes of, like you said, going on a roller coaster. You wanted the memories, but not really truly enjoying the memory that you're creating. So she'll probably have a different version of that same memory than you do, right?
yeah.
If there was someone listening right now that was thinking they should take medical leave, but they can't see how their work or their business will survive, what would you say to her?
I would say gaining yourself, having yourself back, being at full capacity again, being able to align yourself with your mission and your work and your purpose and your joy. Like it's worth anything that you're scared you might lose. And I lost a lot financially going through this. I'm still feel like I'm in recovery mode, but I wouldn't change a thing. I wouldn't change a thing. Was it scary? Yes. Did it cost way more than I thought it would? Yes, because it lasted longer. It took longer than I thought it would. But not in a million years would I make a different decision and like just keep going and going and going, thinking that I'll be able to get better, even though my body knew what I needed to do. So, I don't know where you listening, sit in your spiritual journey. But for me, it was a lot of just having to trust in a greater plan, trust in some higher power, trust that if I do what's right for me, I'm going to be taken care of. I will get through one day at a time until I get through 1 week at a time, until I get through a month at a time or a year at a time, or I mean, always only ever one moment at a time, really. But I would say listen to that quiet voice inside. And if it's saying that you need this break, you need this time, trust that is the freedom that I'm not going to say 100% sure you'll have the same freedom I did on the other side, but if you even have a fraction of the freedom that I now feel on the other side, I can assure you it will be worth it because you're worth it. You're not meant to live suffering. You're not meant to live in pain. You're not meant to live, restricted and constricted and like a small expression of who you're here to be. So what you need to allow yourself to be that full expression and live out that divine purpose, like, you kind of have to say yes, even if you're shaking in your shoes. Saying yes. I sure was shaking in my shoes when I said yes, but there's no other choice for me. And I'm so glad I made it.
So, Christine, anybody that's listening that wants to get in touch with you, whether it's because they're going through their own journey, whether their interest is piqued and they're like, how can this amazing woman help me express myself and write a book and do all the things? How can they get a hold of you? How can they reach you?
Well, our publishing website is at Seshat Press. It's spelled Seshat, Seshat Press. As I came out of the pain, I renamed my company to Seshat in the name of the Egyptian goddess of writing, wisdom, and knowledge. So seshatpress.com is who we are there. If you want to send an email, best place to send is to support@seshatpress.com. Or if you want to send me a direct message, the best place to do that is through LinkedIn. It's just Christine Kloser on LinkedIn. When you get there, you'll see the header says Seshat Press. You'll see a picture of me, and just you can send me a message there because that is the platform I am checking. It's really the only one I'm actually active on right now because I stepped away from everything online in my leave, and I'm working my way back in slowly. But I'm there on LinkedIn, so you can find me there for sure if you want to connect directly. I'd be happy to talk with you about anything book related, publishing related, journey related, certainly.
Amazing.
As we step forward into doing what you need to do to liberate and free and live your best life.
Well, Christine, we are so grateful for the gift of your time and again, your vulnerability and how you shared something that, really, I mean, it set the course of your life and where things are now. So I know that we are really excited to see where you go as we move forward. So thank you very much.
Thank you for having me on. Glad to be here.
If this episode supported you, share it with a woman you respect and want to lift up.
Join our free Trailblazers community, the space where high-achieving women finally feel met.
You'll find the link in the show notes.
Until next time, keep moving forward, keep listening to yourself.
And remember, you deserve support too.